What is the worst thing you've overheard while pretending to be asleep? When I was a kid, I used to be scared of monsters or something creeping up on me in my sleep, so I would always ask my dad to check on me before he went to bed. It made me feel more comfortable. One night, I was still awake when I heard him coming up the stairs, and I wasn't supposed to be awake and knew I would get in trouble if he saw me, so I pretended to be asleep. He came into my room and just kinda stared at me for a few seconds, then came up close to my bed, lifted the blanket up, farted under it, turned around and left. It's been at least 15 years and I remember that night vividly. He vehemently denies it to this day, but I know what happened. My theory on this is he knew you weren't sleeping and wanted to teach you a lesson. I pretended to sleep through the doctor sitting at my kitchen table telling my dad he had stage 3 cancer. I was 9. He's totally fine now, but it really sucked at the time. That's an awesome doctor to come to your home to deliver that kind of news. Glad your dad kicked cancer's butt. My father telling my mother that sometimes he just wanted to kill me. I was 5 years old when I overheard this. Being that my dad was an alcoholic and full of rage, I believed him and lived my entire childhood believing he was going to kill me. My dad was and still is an alcoholic. Similar things have happened to me. I tried almost everything to correct stuff between us, but alcohol is more important to him. Nowadays, I rarely see him, and when I do, I hate to be around him for long. Freshman college roommate watching pee on his laptop wearing headphones, humping his mattress like there's no tomorrow. Dang. I remember humping my mattress. I didn't know what jerking off was at the time. Mayo. Sleeping over at a friend's house when I was 14. All of us on the floor in living room. Couldn't sleep. 2 of my friends, guy and girl, directly next to me start doing freaky things to each other. I was extremely shy and a couple of years younger than them, so I stayed quiet and hoped they'd stop. Had to listen to them for an hour while she made weird but moaning squeaky noises and he was singing, in a weird slightly whispery singy voice, Matchbox 20 songs to her while he did whatever he was doing. That was last time I slept over at a friend's house. Lumfeo, that is weird as frick. My grandparents won $10,000 at the casino, and they told all of their children, and presumably gave them some of that money, except my dad. My dad is a dong, so I didn't tell him either. I was freaking sad and sorry for you and your dad. Then the last sentence followed, and Jay freaking laughed my butt off. My friends talking about going into my wallet later and steal my money, and then leave before I notice. I kick them out. Some friends hug. My mom and I were sharing a hotel room on a trip and unfortunately only had one bed, so we had to share that too. As I was trying to fall asleep, I kept hearing the text tone from my mom's phone going off and her giggling. My parents hate each other, so I knew it wasn't my dad she was texting with. Curious, I opened my eyes just a little bit to see that she was flirting with other men while on a trip with her family, and I was in fact staring at a dong pic. I couldn't really go back to sleep after that. Probably the funniest was on a camping trip with the boys. I have sleep apnea and use a CPAP machine. I overheard a couple of my mates talking about smoking a joint and hotboxing me through the air intake of my CPAP machine. Probably my dad's dementia screaming. Usually nothing is wrong, but he'll wake up at 4 or 5 in the morning to yell at God and grind his teeth. You never do get used to it. I used to have really bad insomnia and would sit in the living room on the nights I couldn't sleep and heard my grandma doing the same thing almost every night. She would scream at herself most saying, "Why can't you just die, you stupid cow?" My mum's boyfriend sloppily trying to frick my mum all drunk as crap whilst we're all sharing the same fricking hotel room. I was 13. That just brought back a memory for me too. I can't remember how old I was, somewhere between 10 and 14. Sharing a room on holiday and same thing happened. Was a great holiday until that point. I remember coughing to try and get them to stop, but they didn't. You can see M on my T or my belly but not inside me. This was coming from the top bunk. I was on the bottom bunk. I snuck out and went somewhere else. Current objective, survive. My mom and aunt talking, thinking 10-year-old me was asleep. Aunt, little Runzen Gusses is so cute. Mom, no, he's not very good looking at all. Had the same experience, but the difference was that I wasn't asleep and my mom said that in front of me. I was at my BF's apartment staying over. His roommate also happened to have some friends who were dating there as well. I was in my BF's room and they were sleeping in the living room. They were definitely freaking. Weirdest thing of it all were these little banging sounds, like someone was hitting the freaking wall. The whole time I had to pee like a mother sucker, but getting to the bathroom involved walking by the living room and I did not wanna risk it. When we woke up the next morning, someone had ripped a chunk out of one of the curtains and the TV remote was snapped in half. To this day I don't wanna know what was going on in there. Plot twist. She's actually the Hulk, but instead of transforming when she's angry, she transforms when frisky. My mom having an affair with her fiance's best friend, who was married, in the same room that I was sleeping in. I was like 10 years old. I was a camp counselor. Two girls very much like to make hot or not lists. One of them suggested a male counselor was hot, and the other said he was saying mean things about me behind my back, which made him not hot. Hurt to hear that from my campers, but glad they supported me. Or what, that's actually sweet. Good on them. When I was a kid, I was pretending to sleep in the car. I was in the back seat, next to my older sister. I was probably 6 or 7, so she would have been around 13. She let out a raunchy, all windows down, gag the rest of the car sort of fart. It was loud, but we were both in the back. She immediately blames it on me farting in my sleep. The whole car laughs and rolls down their windows, and I stayed asleep. No one to this day knows that it was her, and she still thinks she got away with it. I got you, sis. This is the humor I needed after reading the rest of this thread. When I was a wee tot, I pretended to be asleep in the family room so I wouldn't have to actually go to bed, and once my parents were distracted, I could keep watching TV. I then got to hear my dad proposition my mom for couch S3X. It's been many years so I don't remember exactly what he said, but it was something along the lines of hop on pop. Haha, OMG, that's horrifying. My mom trying to calm my dad down out of a suicidal fit. My brother and I had been really bad that day, and when he grounded us, we both told him that we hated him and wanted him to go away. He didn't do anything wrong. My brother and I were just a couple of immature little I'm pretty sure blackout drunk at this point, which I had never seen and still haven't saw since then, walked into our room that night and I pretended to fall asleep. Then he just started these deep, haunting sobs that I'll probably never forget. He stumbled outside and we could hear him begging my mom to let him die and sobbing. All I've ever wanted in my entire life was to be a better dad than mine. I was only 11 or so, but it freaking destroyed my heart. I think that's the time I learned that emotional pain can actually physically hurt. I was hunched over in my bed bawling my eyes out and on the verge of throwing up. I also felt like an butthole for crying over what we said. My brother was thankfully able to sleep through it all. I think about that once every 2 weeks or so, and I always message him to tell him I love him when I do. I hope he forgot about it. But being a dad myself now, I don't think it's something you totally forget. It might not hurt like it did in the moment, but I don't think you forget. Like most heartbreaking things, I guess. Well, this made me cry. I lost my dad 2 years ago and I acted like a total C to him when I was a teenager. I hate myself and my teenage years. My family was staying at a friend's house and had to share a room. My dad comes to bed hammered and says to my mum something along the lines of, "Does it impress you that I'm this drunk and can still perform? I actually wanted to die." Wow, reading this gave me bystander desire for death. Glad you made it through that one. 4 years ago, after a night out in NYC with a friend, we decided to crash at her parents' Manhattan apartment. They lived full-time outside of the city instead of trekking back to our respective places. Her and her siblings basically used the apartment as a crash pad for whenever they were in that part of the city, and we were aware that one of her older brothers might show up there to sleep that night. When we got home, he wasn't there, and I opted to sleep on this really cool enormous window seat in the living room instead of sharing a bed with my friend. I must have drifted off for a while, but I woke up to him coming into the apartment and talking on the phone. I decided to pretend to be asleep, since I had only met him once and didn't want to make sleepy small talk. I then heard him say to the other person on the phone, "No, I forgot. Friend, has this girl over? Yeah, she's cute. I'm pretty sure she's asleep." Yeah, definitely asleep. I could just go over there and get on top of her for sure. I mean, yeah, it's been a long time. He continued to vocally consider assaulting me and took a step or two closer to the window while I laid there frozen until he finally said something along the lines of, "Nah, I probably shouldn't. Anyway, friend is here," and walked away. I forced myself to stay awake for as long as I could, slept for maybe an hour or two, and left as soon as I could in the morning. I told my friend what her brother had said and her response was essentially, "Well, he's lonely." Whoa, frick both of them. Seriously, that is so messed up. You didn't deserve any of that. My mom on a payphone, begging her boyfriend for more H. I'm sorry, hope you're doing alright now. Something like, "She's too old for this. I'm not going to carry her up to bed anymore." And that was the last time I was magically transported from the living room couch to my bedroom. My roommate's one night stand dismount because his dong was hitting her bladder and she waddled off for a pee before getting back on top. That is so lovely. I'm trying not to picture it. My roommate and her FWB having loud, dirty talk S3X. I just had my wisdom teeth out and I think they assumed I was passed out on pain meds. I play Payday 2 too much. Read FWB as First World Bank. Roommate's boyfriend and his friend came into my room when they thought I was asleep. It was warm and I was sleeping naked with minimal blanket coverage. I froze and pretended to sleep. They proceeded to talk about my body and how it was anyone's type. Also how easily it was to drug ladies these days. Oh, and also the friend talked about how easy it would be to sell my boyfriend's boat motor that he had stored in the room. Yeah, so they were kicked out and friend became an ex-friend because she was P. I let my boyfriend kick them out. My sister got drunk and I heard a loud thud and she blacked out. Two of her friends and my mom and dad were shouting at each other and they were saying to shut up cause they didn't want to wake me up and they were all crying thinking she was dead and I couldn't tell my sister I was happy she didn't die. Now I appreciate seeing her every week. My then boyfriend opening up our bedroom door to show me off to his friends while I was sleeping. It was the middle of summer so I was lying butt naked on our bed. He thought I was asleep. Huge fight occurred the next morning and we were not dating for long after that event. WTF man. I'm still pee off about that. You knew I was naked. My dad and stepmom was having a foursome with a couple of their friends. We were at a summer house and they did it in the living room. I felt so uncomfortable eating breakfast the next day. Dang bro, I'd be uncomfortable too. My parents discussing whether or not I was gay and exploring where they went wrong with raising me. Too many hugs. My mom once asked me if I was depressed because she didn't give me enough hugs. Edit. I think it's funny sad that my highest rated comment is about my mom trying to make my carefully written, tear-filled depression confession about her. On a class trip, I heard a girl talk badly about me to the other girls in my room, saying I was a retard and too dumb to stand up for myself. She said the only reason she didn't bully me out of the school was because she needed me to help her with my homework. Then my best friend stood up for me. She said that I wasn't dumb and just a bit shy, and then told her to F off. She's a retard, but I need her to help with my HW. Feo, what a dumbass thing to say. I wasn't pretending to be asleep per se, but I was well on my way. I was under anesthesia and was fading in and out. I remember closing my eyes to help move things along. I was in a lot of pain because my appendix ruptured. This happened years ago, so I can't remember all of the details. Unfortunately, I remember being moved over to an operating table, and they told me to take my shirt off. I think I heard someone go, "What do you think would happen if I poked her belly button right now?" I was an outie prior to having an appendectomy. They went through my belly button so that is no longer the case. Anyway, someone, very quickly, responded, "Dude, that is not funny. Remember what happened the last time?" It's possible I was starting to dream, but I remember it making me feel a mix of amusement and anxiety. I really need to know what happened last time. I was in trade school in a different city than my hometown, so I was staying at my in-laws' home. My wife's dad was away for the weekend and I noticed her mom was wearing fancy dresses. She's a very beautiful woman, often mistaken for my wife's sister. She also seemed extra giddy before she would go out for the evenings. On the evening my father-in-law got home, I was in my room studying when I heard him yell at the top of his lungs, "So you F the guy." I can only assume she felt guilty and told him since it was soon after he go home. Anyways, he was yelling at her for most of the night and I heard lots of crying from both of them. I heard some pretty terrible things. They are both very nice people and it was sad to hear them on their worst night. They've stayed together and it looks like they are fighting to make their marriage work. My father-in-law was very cold, distant, and angry for a couple of years, but they seem to be warm towards each other again. Also, the following morning they apologized for all the noise they made and I told them I was just listening to music. When I was around 8 years old I was supposed to be asleep but I snuck downstairs to get milk or something. I heard talking going on downstairs so I stood still and listened. My mom was talking to my brother about how much of a problem I was and how she hated me. She always liked my brother more. I just silently crept back upstairs and cried myself to sleep. Good times. Hope you're doing okay. That's really terrible. When I was like 10 or 11 I visited my dad and while we were watching a movie I tried to fall asleep and I proceeded to hear him flick his GF on the bed I was trying to sleep on. When I woke up all I saw was clothes on the floor. I don't know why I didn't just get up and leave but at least I fell asleep before it really started. Found out my dad's best friend died. They have been friends since they were literally 5 years old, went to the same schools, stayed best friends for 50 years. When he became an alcoholic and cut off contact with everybody, my dad still reached out to him multiple times even though he obviously wasn't ready. He eventually got off the drink and they became really close again and were calling each other every day. I woke up to the phone ringing and my dad looking at it and immediately saying to my mom, "Oh god, I think he's dead." He knew that she only called when something bad was up and he had been hospitalized multiple times because of his drinking. I remember saying on a post years ago that I dread to think of the day that his best friend died because I knew it was coming soon because of his past. My dad is old and is the type of guy who just wants a chat, and I know a lot of people he talks to don't want to do that. Anyway, I heard it all unfold and pretended to sleep because I just did not know what to say. I couldn't imagine losing a best friend for that long. I sat in my bed for hours thinking about it but just laying still. I didn't fully process it until I went to work and I spent nearly 2 hours crying in the toilets. That was the only time I cried in my adult life. Jesus Christ, that must have sucked for your dad. I can't even imagine what that must have felt like. I stopped crying just thinking about what would happen if my best friend died. I hope your dad's doing better. Before I got divorced, was laying in bed late, 11 AM or so, on my day off. After a long string of I think 10 or so work days in a row, my ex, who refused to get a job, was in the next room playing a video game, and I heard him say that motherfucking B is still sleeping. Had a bunk bed in college and one night my girlfriend and I woke up to my roommate banging some chick on the top bunk. But my girlfriend asked me what we should do and I just mumbled just go back to sleep because I figured saying something to them at the moment would make things much more awkward. He still doesn't know. Bang your girl to assert dominance. Neighbor guy walking through the house with a couple of his friends showing them how we leave stuff laying around all the time and it was easy to steal things from us without us knowing. My walls were thin. I could hear almost anything. My parents argued in what they thought was a quiet voice about divorce. Then my dad says you can keep the kid. He annoys the F at and $sign out of me the next week they told me and signed the papers. I think it is under discussed how much divorce stems from one of the parties just really not wanting to freaking parent. Like people don't say that out loud. But now that I'm an age where my own peers are getting divorced, truly a lot of it is people, mostly dudes but not exclusively, who are just tired of having responsibilities. I hope you weren't forced to be around him much. I wasn't pretending to be asleep so much as they assumed I was asleep. My in-laws thought I was still napping after dropping my kid off at school, and they started to crap talk me. They said I was a terrible mom. I didn't care about my kids at all and they better buy a cake because I would rather sleep all day than make him a cake. It was his birthday and my god, It was only 10 AM. It doesn't take that long to make and frost a cake for him. Anyways, I cried in my room for 2 hours before they left to buy groceries, i.e. drink themselves into a stupor, before I got up and made the cake and birthday dinner my child asked for. I didn't tell my husband what they said until a week later because I didn't want to ruin his or my child's day. So sorry you had to hear that. I'm sure your kid and husband loved the cake and had a lovely day. My mom and stepdad talking mad crap about me. I was in high school and needed to start seeing the counselor for mental health issues. My parents were essentially making fun of me, saying that I wanted attention and started mocking my voice, saying, "No one understands me. I'm so mistreated." My parents used to do that to my brother to his face before he lashed and then he got in trouble for it. Not the worst thing. Just reminded me of the time I shared a hotel room with my grandfather in AC and he got up in the middle of the night to pee as oldies do, and before he went back to sleep he said a prayer out loud for his late wife. Still gets me every time. Come on, he is asleep. Okay, fine, I'll do it. But how do I suck it? Like just let it go in your mouth and stroke it with your tongue? Well, I'll try. Oh yeah, choking noises, coughing, frick you. Had to read this 4 times to realize they weren't blowing a sleeping dude. Was sleeping in a bed with my friend and the guy I liked at the time. I got to hear her give him a BJ while he whispered in my ear telling me to wake up. Went on for a bit before they decided to go to a different room to frick. If you are new to the channel, you can subscribe. I publish new videos every day. Until then, check another video. Bye for now.